really a fascinating process. I gotta say that.
Well, what's come out of being in an emotional wreck? What have you gotten out of it?
I felt bad for like holding so much anger towards the problems that both my husband and my parents have had all these years.
Mm-hmm.
And I also felt really angry about myself for like playing these games of trying to pretend like I have to be something else when I've got everything I need to do everything I want to do right now, and I always have had it.
Well, okay, so let's think. Okay, keep on going. So, do you still feel that way?
No, I had this realization yesterday where I was like, I don't want to like get into like the whole weight thing again right now, but for a lot of people, if they were the weight I am, they'd be perfectly happy. And like, who am I to like judge? My body works great. I'm healthy. I've got like the energy to like run when I want.
Uh-huh.
I'm in this place where I'm like, I can't believe all the time I wasted not appreciating what my body even does. Like, even the fact that, like, if I get sick and get over it really quickly. Like, I've got a really strong, efficient Polish body.
Right, and that you've been made to think that it's bad, it's not good. No.
Yeah, and I've wasted so much fucking time in my life.
Well, okay, these are the beliefs that are you currently feeling this way, or that's how you felt?
No, that's how I felt, and now I just feel like, okay, well then, in every day I think, okay, well that's done.
Yeah, it served a purpose, right? It
totally did. But if I can live in that not being part of my consciousness, like there's so much. And even already, I've been like I've been able to, I've always said to myself, like, oh, there aren't enough hours in a day. And I found a lot more time simply by not having my focus on this.
Mm-hmm. Right. It's such a distraction. And it's for what? What is it doing? It's doing nothing. Absolutely nothing.
No, it's like some sort of, it's like a computer program gone rogue.
Yeah, the illusion, though, don't you agree? The illusion is that all that kind of resentment or thinking about it and coping and compensating and I'm going to prove them wrong and I'm going to prove myself and I'm going to be, all of that's an illusion that things are going to get better. So it's not like you were stuck in that kind of like you just said, that, loop around in this way of thinking. It's not like you didn't think it was going to get better. You thought that being that way, that something would improve. It's like chasing a mirage. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So it's not like you knew and should have known better because you never had relative context around it, right? You never saw it from the distance. You were always inside it, not knowing there was anything other than that.
Right, exactly.
So does it seem fair to then be angry at yourself?
No.
It just seems stupid. It's like, why would you even do, right? That anger is coming from that way of existing. It's like you didn't have any alternative until you did. So why be angry when you should be grateful?
Yeah.
Has that flip occurred? Right? Sounds like it has with your body. Why be angry at something when I should be grateful? There's nothing wrong. I have nothing to fix. It's already fixed. It's already done. Hundreds of thousands of years of evolution has worked to bring my body to function the way it does in this environment with abundance. Why be scared of abundance?
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely. And the key thing that you opened up my mind about on Monday was this whole concept of having compassion. And so, like, for every of days that I have an instinctual reaction to. I'm like, wait, how could I look at this in a way that is compassionate? And it changes things instantly.
It does. It gives you an option and separation from having to argue with reality, to define people to be different than they are. It gives, I don't know, I think it's such a freeing, if you want to call it chemical, right? It's like if we're looking at everything through the mind of organic chemistry and brain, compassion is a chemical that allows you to just be the way you are because that's the truth. It's the truth. Whether some belief or concept thinks it's wrong or right, it doesn't really matter. It's the truth of where you're at with what you're learning, what you're knowing. And I don't know, compassion for yourself ultimately leads to compassion for others and situations. And really, if you just accept the truth, whatever that is, do you really need compassion?
No, I mean, it's a very easy thing, I'm finding.
Oh, yeah.
Be the default, rather than the default being like anger and frustration.
Yeah, and then having to convince yourself something different, right? That doesn't work.
Yeah. No.
That's like a mantra. It's like artificially pretending to be something you're not. It doesn't really work. It doesn't. You can try to, but it has to come from that inner sense and that inner kind of humility too, to recognize your thoughts and what you think aren't necessarily accurate to reality, or even close to capable of understanding reality, because our thoughts are so linear, right? This, then that, then this, then that. We think in terms of one line. That's not necessarily how reality works.
No.
That's just human perception, right? Do dogs think linearly? Do birds?
I doubt it.
We don't know. Right? So to impose human thought process on reality is super narcissistic, right? Like that's the only thing that exists. Anyways.
Yeah.
So going back to reality here, being angry at yourself, being angry at the games, being angry that you've wasted time. Why is it wasted time?
Just seeing how much I'm being able to accomplish every day just by not having my thoughts go to that.
Yeah, but is it wasted time if that energy and time was necessary for you to actually come out of your own self-centered space to see things differently?
No.
Yeah, so it's not wasted. It's what had to happen.
I just wish I'd known that sooner.
Well, yeah, but that means that you had to, for whatever reason, sure, of course. But you could say that was part of this lifetime. What had to happen is that no matter what, you had to suffer a certain degree for you to finally look at things differently, to let go of your own thought process, and to have the humility to listen to someone else give you perspective that kind of basically left you naked emotionally, vulnerable, exposed. I mean, you could have easily been angry at me for questioning you.
Yeah, that's true.
Right?
I definitely, and a couple of years ago, that's how it would have been.
Of course, you would have been like, how dare her? How dare she? She doesn't even know how bad my childhood was. That type of response, which people have because they don't have the humility yet. They haven't suffered enough yet to actually tell the truth. They want to hold on to their resentment. And so anything that comes in and says that's wasted energy, that's like a threat, right? Even though it's true and admitting it would open yourself up to recovery, you can't do it yet because you haven't suffered enough in order to admit failure and have the humility to be open-minded. So you have to really look at the complexity beyond just time. It really was, fuck the time concept. You had to suffer that much? Think of all the suffering.
Yeah, it's so true. It's so true.
complexity of it all, the whole concept of linear time on Earth, what time for what? I mean, being narcissistically successful? Is that what was wasted? What was wasted in that time? In my viewpoint, at least from this perspective at this point in my life, what you suffered in was far worse than just time.
But I think what I've been finding in the days since I think I started with you on Thursday last week or Wednesday.
It's been a week, 7 days.
Yeah. Oh.
And this is our third session?
Fourth.
Yeah, with the consult. The consult in 3 sessions, yeah.
Right. So I've been noticing that the thing that I am naturally doing is connecting more deeply with people, friends, and my kids, and like instead of being in this loop, and this is where I finally really get that concept of the narcissism. Because instead of like being in this like, oh, how am I going to do this for me, and how am I going to change me, and how am I going to like shift? No, instead I'm like, what's going on? What happened today? Let's tell stories about like what we can do now, and like there's just so much more connection.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that was missing. That was like the thing that I was craving, and the thing that I thought.
Well, and you were forcing, right? You were trying to force connection through concepts versus allowing it.
Connecting.
Yeah, no, because you were connecting with the way you were forcing it. Yeah, your connection was with your forcefulness. It wasn't with the actual essence or heart of that existed. Does that make sense? So you were connecting. You were just connecting with how you were trying to force things. That's how survival mode works. You cannot, because you don't, survival mode. When you're in survival mode, those lower states of consciousness, which we all are geared to be in under specific circumstances, right? When food is not safe, when your environment isn't safe, when you aren't feeling lovable inherently and safe in your community, you're wired to be, connecting more to forecasting environment. You're more self absorbed because that's how it works. That's narcissism, right? How can you connect if you don't feel safe with yourself, with your life, with your history, with your parents, with your you don't feel safe, so you connect with how you control things. So that lack of connection you were feeling was because the connection you were having was so focused on control that you couldn't just relax. So that's important to see too, because it's not like you weren't connecting. It was just connecting to these conditions. That's like for me with my eating disorder, I was so connected to my body image, the image of the body, right? And all the mechanisms and all these behaviors, I was a slave to have, because my only connection was with the body image that was in my mind, the perfect image. How can you have a heart connection if everything is devoted to creating the environment you think is safe? The illusion you have is that when I am safe, when I have that image in my mind, whatever fantasy it is, it doesn't have to just be body image. It could be body image that gets you this job, that gets you the money, that gets you a sense of freedom and success, and now you're connected. You think at that point you'll be connected at the heart. But how does that occur if your way of existing is connected to conditions, not the heart? Did that make any sense?
It totally did. And then it's also fleeting.
Yeah, because the conditions are fleeting and everything, your mind is now held hostage to these conditions. Now, to someone, we could say that's addiction. Yeah, remember when I said you're addicted to the body image? You're addicted to this. You're no different than your husband and your parents. You're just trying to, you're fixating on these fantasies, thinking that they're more approvable. Of course, they're not as like we could say destructive, but they're still not authentic or heartfelt or really connecting naturally. right? It's like getting drunk and then feeling connected. When I'm drunk, I feel connected. You see that you're focused on the drunkenness. You're not focused on the connection. It's the drunkenness that is you're connecting to. That's the confusion. I think a lot of people who have these issues, they have a hard time verbalizing. So it's easy for the science community watching all this to think it's the drunkenness you're addicted to, not necessarily the connection you think you get when you're drunk.
Wow.
You don't have, but you have to have the drunkenness because you have so much shame and you have so much vitriol, resentment, and all of that you've got to get rid of to just feel connected. One way this has been described with the person I love to study, Dr. David R. Hawkins. He says it's not the drugs that actually give you connection. It's they remove the blocks from connection, right? So for you, we could say your drug isn't perfectionism. It isn't thinness. Those actually you're trying to remove the blocks to feeling connected. So by being thinner, that you think that's removing a block, but in reality, it's actually creating a massive block because you have to be thin first.
Right. Yep. Yeah. Wow.
So going back to that feeling that it's like, oh wow, it's so easy. I just want to connect at the heart. There's no condition I need. I don't have to be thinner. I don't have to be successful. I don't need money at all. I have everything I need. I have more than I need. I could lose. I could be homeless and still feel connected and feel lovable and feel safe because I'm inherently, what's the word? I'm inherently whole. Yeah, like I am good enough. I am lovable, even with flaws and struggles, because that's part of being human. So I am inherently lovable even in my humanness because I'm doing the best I can with what I know, and you can't do better. It's impossible to do better unless you're aware of something better. Until that moment, you are doing good enough. Even if it is an alcoholism, that's all you know. You don't know an alternative. If you did, you'd do it differently, right? Of course, abstinence allows people to face these things, but many times, even in abstinence, people go to another conditioned connection, like religion is common. Body image is common coming out of alcoholism. Coming out of religion, body image is common. So people transfer their conditional connection all the time. And the focus is on the condition. So you're connecting to the condition. That's where this conversation began. You're not actually connecting at the heart. So the heart is like real. It's the only thing true about you. If you can stay in that space, it's like you're free, totally free. You have infinite possibilities from that point. That's like your authentic free will. It isn't connected to a concept of God, a concept of success, a concept of your parents, any type of concept. It's just authentic. And from there, of course, you can assimilate. Of course, from there, you can become a religion, but there's a big difference between the authentic self and the religious concept. Cultural concept, right?
Right. Yeah.
You don't become the concept. You are just acting, if you want to call it that. And you don't even take it serious because why would you act that way? Do you really want love and approval and fitting in based on acting? It becomes appropriate or not. If I go into a church with my family, I'm not going to cuss and, do things that might cause them cognitive dissonance. Right? Because that's not my role. I don't need to be that for them. They can figure it out on their own. It's kind of like I don't need to tell people who want to lose weight that they're brainwashed. I don't have to do that. I can let them want to lose weight and believe that they'll figure it out if they choose to and if it's appropriate for them. Whatever.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's really crazy.
Well, so what I think this is, so if I were to make a guess, is you have come out, and it doesn't mean you can't go back down. Remember, I think I texted you this. It could come and go. Trust me. So don't feel bad if you come out of this or go back down into that space. Don't worry about that.
Okay.
And don't feel bad, because that means that there's more for you to learn. Again, time is not being wasted. It just means, what condition am I now imposing that is blocking me from authentic? Yes. Or what condition am I imposing that's blocking me from feeling connected? Why am I connecting to these conditions instead? And what do I get out of it? What am I willing to surrender so that I can get back to a heartfelt condition? Right? But what I believe this is, I talk about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. To me, this is so simple. It's so fundamental. It allows us to just have grace in our humanness. We are wired through evolution to want to survive. Okay? Period.
Yeah.
And our instincts, hardwired instincts, are to want food, to want to be safe with food and water. Those fundamental requirements for life are narcotics. Okay, so we don't need to be demonizing food as addictive, because of course it is. Our brains are wired to want it, especially when it's going away, deprived, or it's we've connected food to connecting to people. That would be food addiction, right? Yeah. Those are hardwired instincts. We don't have to feel bad about that or demonize them as bad things, right? So when your food is not secure, you're going to have these issues. When your environment, your home, your ability to provide, have a job, when those are threatened, you're going to be down in that space, right? And third, if you feel, because we're pack animals, we're wired to survive with other people. So we're wired to want and seek and strive connecting with people, okay? And to feel that we have something, that we are lovable and that other people think we're lovable. We're wired to seek those things. If those things are insecure, you're going to kind of go down into this space of needing to be controlling, cognitive dissonance, or cognitive distortions like forecasting and making assumptions and all or nothing and perfectionism. Those kind of ways of suffering are to be expected when you're in survival mode. Again, I'm really simplifying this. So when all those things are secure, your food is secure, your life is secure, you're secure in yourself, you feel lovable with the truth, without condition. We come out of that state of mind, our brains function differently. We're more lenient, we're less critical, we don't have obsessive compulsive tendencies. Those just vanish, completely vanish. And again, this is unmedicated, because your brain is now functioning the way it does out of survival mode. Depression is gone because you're more open-minded. You don't have any shame you're trying to hide. You don't have history you're trying to repress, right? What's the point of repressing?
That's so true. Yeah.
Yeah, so you're free. All of a sudden, all that energy that went into repression and resentment and blame and victimization and all the coping mechanisms that you're kind of a slave to try to come out of it too. Gotta be thinner, I gotta work harder, I gotta have better grades, I gotta be going to church, I gotta pay my tithes, I gotta all of that you're like free from. There's no point to them anymore because there's nothing you're trying to survive. You're coming out of survival mode. So the way you're feeling right now is actually how you're supposed to function in security. When those needs are secure, this is how everybody functions. We are so much more, the human capacity is so much higher and so much better and so much evolved when you come out of survival mode. It's shocking at how easy it is. And it's natural. It's not forced. You don't need a self-help book to tell you how to think and feel right now. It's a natural occurrence.
Yeah, it really is.
So it's not like you're special or evolved, or if you want to, it's not like you can attach some sense of specialness or I'm better than you in this space, because doesn't that just seem bizarre to even think that way?
No, yeah, that would be.
That's the way someone thinks when they are in survival mode. I have more money. I'm thinner than you. So they're using those kind of, again, the connection they have to those conditions, thinking that they're evolved, when in reality, that thought in and of itself that I am better than you is a sign you are not. You're in survival mode still, trying to fulfill that third hierarchy of need, the sense of desire to belong, be lovable, through some sense of narcissism, that supremacy. I'm better than you. That's what you were doing with your parents. There's no way out of it if you think like that. That's why I went right at that one. I was like, she's going to have to break that one up.
Yeah. It's definitely powerful.
What a benefit, right? It's like now you can actually love your parents. Not, again, the loyalty. It's not about loyalty. It's about love. To see that they are in their humanness trying to survive. Especially with such, the more shame someone has, the more they're going to need to medicate. Because they think they are failures. And they're trying not to. There is a annihilation that occurs when you believe dogma and you believe the shame feared belief systems. If you believe you have failed, it can annihilate your sense of value in life and your life altogether. That happened to me. Which is why I was so obsessive around body image, because I was trying to not annihilate my soul. Right? So do you see how it's understandable? You're trying to survive annihilation.
Yeah.
So then the shame around how you're surviving annihilation compounds it. Feeling bad, I don't know how to function any different, but I have to function this way because I'm protecting my own personal annihilation. So to face the Grim Reaper, as I call it, that goes against our wiring, but that's how you get out of it. Facing death, willfully facing rejection, facing your inferiority, that you're not any better than anybody else. You're just on a learning curve trying to figure it out. And that never stops, right? So where I'm at personally today is unevolved compared to where I might be in 5 years from now or 20 years from now or continuously. I evolve. It's a never-ending process of awareness that expands.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Until I think I know it all. Then it stops, right? Anyways, am I making any sense for you?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Do you have any fears at this point? Are you afraid that it's going to go away?
No, because I know how much better this feels. And now I just need to keep practicing and focusing on. And occasionally, those thoughts will come up. Like last night, I took the kids to Chipotle. They really wanted to have dinner out with me, and I was like, "Cool, let's go. Where do you want to go?" They really wanted Chipotle, and I didn't want what I usually get. I didn't want like one of those salads. I didn't want a burrito bowl. All I wanted was the guacamole with like some chips. I wanted the guacamole. That was what I wanted most. And I sat there with the kids and I just enjoyed this guacamole so much. I was like so happy that I didn't get like a salad or something.
And how did it feel to not have shame? Oh my God, I've ruined it. I've had too many calories. This is too fattening. Oh my God, this is bad for my gut.
It was so satisfying.
There's no shame. Meal. Yeah.
Because it was exactly what my body wanted. It wanted that guacamole. It was like, that guacamole needs to get in me. As best as possible, as enjoyable as possible. I enjoyed it so completely that when I was done, I was like, great, okay, I'm good. Let's go. I'm going to go to Whole Foods and buy some good water.
You didn't have to ruminate on it. You didn't have to worry about it. That's suffering, right? So to someone with an eating disorder, they would listen to you and go, how did you not ruminate? Oh my God, it's so bad. What did you do? You ruined it. Oh my God, what are you going to do? You have to fix it. Yeah. Fuck it, you might as well eat whatever you want. You got to go ahead and binge. And oh my God, how do I fix that? And ruminate. I mean, that ruminating is just, it's like poison. So there was nothing. Ate it and it was over.
Yeah.
Before, how would you have felt about it?
Oh, there's no way I would have done that. I would have been like, no, I need to get protein. I have to have a salad with chicken on it.
Sounds like brainwashing, right? Does you hear the brainwashing?
Yeah, and honestly, like a lot of times, protein makes me gag. So obviously, my body probably doesn't want it for
Okay, so do you
whatever
hear?
reason.
So when you take a step out, can you understand when you're vulnerable and you're seeking the concept of health and thinness to be seen as valuable or to connect, if you want to call it that, why you would be so brainwashed, easily brainwashed, to not listen to the body and to more listen to these, this is what you must eat, you're a robot, this is what you must do. And then the illusion that it's healthy makes it even more difficult to question.
Yeah. Yeah. And also, if I eat the thing that is like in quotes healthy and what I should be eating, it doesn't satisfy what my body really wants, and then I'm still hungry for the thing that I really wanted, even though I've already eaten this thing that I didn't want.
Yes, and even though you're not really actually hungry, your brain is saying, this isn't good enough, goodness isn't good enough. You got it. So if you just actually are guided by that without the shame, guilt, fear, all that crap, the likelihood that you'll binge or continue to eat it impulsively is so small, if not nothing.
It's fascinating because I've noticed too, like, there's a little thing that have started, and I mean, this has only been a week, so I'm really looking forward to like our full 20 sessions. I'm like, wow, this is exciting. This is really exciting. The kids, like, they have, of course, they're kids. They have like bags of, corn chips around, or goldfish, or whatever, Cliff Bars, things that they love that are quick go-to, like
Gatorade. Yeah.
And it's great. It's like whatever they want, I always get it for them. I don't stop them. But then I would walk by the bag of chips while I'm angry about something and frustrated, and I'd grab like 5 chips, and I was like, but I've been noticing it, and I'm like, I'll walk by the bag of chips and be like, ooh, do I want those? I'm like, no, I don't actually. I don't want those.
Yeah, because when at some point you might want them, and you can have them, and there's no shame.
Yeah, like last night at Chipotle with the guacamole, you have to have chips to go with the guacamole. I'm not going to dip carrots in guacamole. That's like redundant. But I just like, it's a really fascinating journey, and I'm really excited about it.
Are you surprised at all? Is this what you thought it was going to be?
No, not at all. I thought for sure if I took the noose off me, I thought I'd be freaking binging and like gorging and like sitting around just eating all the kids snacks and everything. I'm really it makes me trust my body more. It makes me happier. It makes me calmer. I'm like so much more calm. And the great thing too is like in my work, I'm having a lot more creative inspiration about characters.
Of course, because you're not forcing it. You're not forcing it out of insecurity and desperation.
Yeah. It's really, and also with this new appreciation for just connecting, I'm working on a movie tomorrow, and I've got a pretty big scene, and I'm going to just approach it in a whole different way of just connecting first, before anything else. Mm-hmm. Before anything else. Just to experiment with this in that realm, because I have a feeling it's going to really be so delicious. I'm
excited for you.
Yeah, me too.
You thought you had to lose 25 pounds to get that.
Well, I always work. I just thought I would get better work, but I'm like, the work that I get is awesome. So that's another part of it too. I'm like appreciating what I have. I work consistently. So it's like I have come to this place. It's like, well, what more do I want? And so it's not. It's just letting go, and trusting like everything is okay. Everything is okay. Mm-hmm. Everything is okay.
Well, you can handle it, right? There's a sense of there's truth, and can you handle it? What's the truth? One of the things that I learned is that when you face the truth, even when it's scary, facing it and allowing it to be, in essence, is what it takes to handle it. So It just doesn't it doesn't serve you to deny the truth, avoid the truth, repress the truth, and then have to cope and cope and cope to change reality so that it fits what you can handle. That's not actually handling anything besides coping.
Yeah, it's true. It's absolutely true.
Yeah, so go into the vulnerability of the truth and accept it. Once you do that, freedom just opens up. It's like this whole space of existence that comes out of survival mode and into thriving mode. And it's blissful. It's loving. It's so gracious. And it's not forceful at all. It's natural. It's like floating like seaweed in the ocean, even if it's violent.
Yeah.
You know, you just float and allow things to be. That's so counter to survival mode, though, right? When you're in survival mode, your brain is saying, fight, hide, do something. So
exactly.
To be like seaweed in a violent ocean is so... to someone who's in survival mode, that seems stupid. They don't realize that.
And the things in my life have not changed in the last week, but it really is about the way I am in my own flesh that is changing the level of the way everything affects me. Like, it doesn't feel like survival mode anymore. It doesn't.
No, have you noticed you physically feel better?
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy? Because nothing physically has changed other than your perceptions. And there is a physical change that occurs. You'll notice that your stomach isn't as upset, that your digestion is better, that your energy is more even. It's not high, low. You're not as exhausted. Of course, it doesn't mean that the exhaustion coming from having kids and all the shit that goes into juggling what they need to do and what you need to do in life isn't there. It's still there. It's just your ability to just allow it and to be in it is so much easier. You don't have the strain of trying to control everything so intensely. So you actually can enjoy this stage in your life, like feeling connected.
Yeah.
Feels good.
It really does. And that is like, I'm letting that be my focus now.
To stay in that space. Yeah. Even so, the challenge is being in that space as things that you haven't faced yet arise that maybe you didn't know were triggers to coping, like being with your parents and them judging you or judging your parenting, or when your husband blames you for why he's an alcoholic. Or, I mean, I'm not saying that's going to happen, but go into your biggest vulnerabilities that would put you in a position to go back into past mechanisms that caused just suffering and, like what you recognized, wasted time.
Yeah.
You know, there's things that are out there you might not know about yet, and you have to be... I know for me, it was like living and it still is, living in a space of accepting reality at all times. Even if my child is hurting himself and in pain. It's like, as a parent, we're wired to care and to, do something. And how do you respond to that type of, survival mechanism? When it was me and myself, I could, a very different state of being. When you add children, it complicates that mechanism. Don't you agree?
Oh.
Because we're wired to our children's survival. And how do you stay unattached and stay kind of in this space when your children are suffering with survival mode?
Yeah, it's very, very challenging.
I'm trying to figure that one out right now.
A very crazy and simple thing. My daughter's 15, and she desperately last night at 9 o'clock at night wanted to have her hair cut, like 2 inches. Mm-hmm. I was exhausted, and I started to feel that anger and that resentment, and then I was like, "Well, wait a minute, like, from a compassionate point of view, if this kid needs me to trim her hair, it won't take me that long. It's not going to change what time I probably go to bed.
No, and it's a time for you to just sit and talk.
Yeah, and the two of us, we had a really great time. It looked amazing. And I was so happy that, like, I didn't have that immediate reaction of, like, are you kidding me? It's 9 o'clock. I'm not doing this right now. I was like, well, if that's what you really want, I could probably do it. I don't want to, but I'll do it.
And there's times where you're going to give her the responsibility. Like yesterday, my daughter, I was right in the middle of writing, which was hard because I was watching this whole, like, Cohen interview thing, which was a big shit show. Anyways, so she wanted me to get up and leave and go with her to go pick out these classes. And I was like, no. She's almost 18 and she's getting some new prescription glasses. And she was like, hey, will you go do this for me? And I was like, no, not my deal. Anyway, so just having boundaries, letting people take responsibility, there is that process too of recognizing the give and take of it all, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so I know I'm like a work in progress, but I'm liking the work, and it is.
Hey, so am I. Hard. So am I. I am too. It certainly helps to, it's, to me, getting over the body image, the who I am in relation to the body, that is such a pivotal point of evolution, right? Around facing death, because the body is a source of this lifetime being over, right? It is the risk of this lifetime being over, and you have to face that. Once you're willing to face that and face the truth of what it really is, and then you're open, then from there, accepting the body, the vulnerability of death and whatever that is, opening yourself up to what life potential exists out there, the infinite space of potential, without limbs, without eyesight, with death, cancer, babies, evolved, maternal instincts, what that life is about. You get to explore with it. Do you feel like you're just now living? Like, I'm finally living my life.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like even a guy that I do a lot of production work for, I came to meet him at this Starbucks, and for the first hour, we just chit-chatted. We didn't get down to business, and it was just really nice. I really enjoyed my coffee, and I really enjoyed the conversation, and for the first time, I noticed what color his eyes were. And I was like, it was just such a wonderful moment to feel that kind of connection.
Well, and that it's effortless, really.
Yeah, and I want to. It's easy though for me to just be like obsessive compulsive about it. Like, who else can I connect with? How can I connect? How can I find more people?
Okay, well, that's survival mode. You see that now? That's totally trying to survive. You are trying to survive, man. No wonder you were that way. That's understandable.
Huh. But I like this, and I just want to keep focusing and working. I want to reestablish new grooves in my record. So that the tunes are different.
Well, you're now in a different space of how the brain works, right? When you're out of survival mode, the brain works. So you're not in those grooves. Those grooves only make sense if you're not surviving under those specific circumstances. So it makes no sense. It's like excessiveness for nothing.
Yeah, that's true.
Right? Unless you go back to that thought process and think that way, you're free forever. So the question is, what would bring you back to think that way? I know for me, specific to the eating disorder and that, I would have to go, one, hold myself to the religion that was the source of the original shame and annihilation of my soul. And then I'd have to believe again that being thin would make it better.
Yeah. Yep.
then I would have an eating disorder, right? So to me, that would be like, I don't know. I just can't. You come out of that. This is when people say this is a disease. I just think it is a disease if you're in that space, believing those things. Original sin, soul, shame, soul, annihilation, like all of that. Yeah, that you could say is a pot of sickness. Like a boiling pot of poisonous sickness. Yeah, of course. But you can break the pot and all the sickness can go away and you'll never, there is a way to come out of that. You just have to look at your beliefs that are sacred, that no one wants to question because your own parents might think they're sacred. I don't know. For me, it was a complete and total, like, suicide, essentially, to this old self-concept that was provided to me as a superior concept by my family.
Right.
On top of the fact that I had all this, I'm a human being, which makes me a shameful piece of shit. From there, I have a coping mechanism. I easily could have been an alcoholic from that point, right? It's from there that these coping mechanisms come into play. So when you look at alcoholism, addiction, behavior, obsessive compulsiveness, to me, that's just like an understandable way this person is trying to feel better about what's underneath all that shit.
Yeah.
So until what's underneath it is faced in humility, right? Without feeling sorry for yourself.
Yeah.
That's removing the victim out of it.
That's part of the key too. Like I think what could pull me back down the rabbit hole would be that feeling sorry for myself in the situation that I'm in at home.
And with because that's basically emulating the way you felt with your parents. So you'd have to you'd have to go back to your old way of viewing it, which is from the child's perspective.
Yeah.
You'd have to get, which you have to really dissolve that. Like it has to be destructed, completely dismantled so that you can evolve. If you evolve out of that thought process as an adult, it's like you'd have to have brain damage to get back there. Because you'll never again see it the same way. So there's no trigger.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Well, it's going to be interesting.
Well, you got to let it be what it is, right?
Yep.
Because it's an active process. It's not a memorized concept that we're enforcing.
No, it's in our
Wouldn't that be so much easier?
Yeah,
but then it wouldn't be real, You'd have to have mantras, shit like that. Not that mantras are all bad, but I'm saying in this case, it'd be like saying, I forgive my parents. I'm gonna think myself out of it. Where it's like, no, you don't have to forgive your parents if you actually forgive your parents. And yourself, and your husband, and the process. And doesn't mean you enable it, or want it, or encourage it. It just means that it has an understanding. I like to see it as there's a book for that person that actually makes sense for everything. There's also, in that sense, solutions. Did you hear me?
Yeah.
But they have to come to it. You can't.
Oh, no. Definitely not.
Yeah. Okay. So here's where I think we need to go from here. I think you need to keep on doing exactly what you're doing. Don't change a thing.
Okay.
And let's see how this naturally unfolds. If you start, let's just say you naturally start losing weight, what could happen?
Well, there could be the second of like, oh, this is really working, and then actually try.
Then what?
I know for a fact that doesn't work for me.
Well, what would happen if you get delight or excitement about it?
Yeah, but I really want to stay neutral and not go down that rabbit hole.
You're right. Answer the question I asked. What would happen if you get delight or excitement or get a sense of this is working if your body starts to look thinner or be thinner? What would happen? What happens to the freedom?
It would start to become restrictive.
It would go away instantly. It would be immediate. Yeah. Right? Because then you would start to have to focus on your food because you can get off on it. So the benefit of restricting food comes back and the high of restricting food comes back.
Yeah.
Right? And then that freedom is completely gone. Your likelihood of overeating comes back.
Yeah.
So you're correct. So what happens if you start to gain weight? You notice in a week from now your pants are tight. Have you faced that?
I thought of it, yeah, and I've been prepared for it.
How have you prepared for it?
Just like that can happen.
And how do you feel about that?
I feel fine about it.
That right there. So if you've accepted it, if you've faced it and you've already accepted it truthfully, then there is no pressure in your existing space to just eat the guacamole. Yeah, it gives you that freedom to just be truthful about your feelings with food versus, you still haven't faced gaining weight. So can you see how you really have to be disarmed completely around the potential of weight gain, but that you're also detached from the illusion of losing weight and the idea that it's any better. If you can stay removed from all of that, can you see where that gives your heart connection freedom to
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's irrelevant either way.
Yeah.
That's really important. Even if someone else thinks you're a better person because of it, do you want to attach betterness?
No, I don't. I'm not. No.
I would agree. Right? Because that takes away your personal kind of authentic power over this well-being. Becomes theirs.
Yeah.
One way I describe it is, at least for me, I remember thinking, for me to maintain this freedom and this love for who I really am and honoring that life space and consciousness, I will never again accommodate to some concept and put it on my resume and use it as a way to promote myself with others. I will never do that again.
Yeah.
Right? That's not, even if someone else thinks I'm a better person, that's not my karma. I don't want it. I'm just going to be myself and they can think what they want. Whether they think I'm a grandiose, awesome person or they think I'm a piece of shit liar. It doesn't matter. I'm doing the best I can with what I'm aware of and that's the best I can do. So whatever. None of my business what anybody else thinks. That's total freedom to kind of transcend that third hierarchy of need or to actually fulfill it. I am worthy of this life and I am lovable. So whether someone else thinks so or not is irrelevant because I have fulfilled that heaping dark void that not even my mom or my dad could fulfill because they're not in my life or space. Even when I was a child, they don't know what I need. Right? So you become...
No one can know what we need.
No one knows that. You're the only one experiencing it. So if you're not fulfilling it, you're never going to come out of that third hierarchy. You're never going to fulfill that hierarchy of survival need, and you'll always be in survival mode, blaming others, resenting others, trying to cope and compensate, trying to fill it up with some other mechanism, and you're a slave to it, and you wonder why you're depressed. Living in survival mode, having physical ailments over chronic periods of time, blaming it on the gluten in the food.
Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah, it's just, you lose perspective. You don't have perspective in there. I'm happy to be here to help you get that perspective, but you certainly were ready for it, man, because you kind of picked this up quickly. And again, you had the humility to actually stomach it without getting defensive.
my attitude. Bring it on.
You were humble enough, or at least you had suffered enough. A lot of people come to me thinking they're ready and they had not suffered enough. So it feels like I'm attacking them when I'm not. I'm just attacking their disorder, right? I'm attacking the way they're thinking that is disordered. You know?
Yeah.
Did you feel that way in our consult or our first session? Did you ever feel like, I think you did. Remember when you were like, you said I was a narcissist?
Yeah, there were a couple of times. I absolutely did. But I know from even, like when I first came to New York and I was studying out there were a couple of teachers that were really hardcore and they would cut through the shit. And they even said at the beginning, they're like, you may not like the way I'm training you, but you have to trust the process. And I trusted the process, and I had amazing creative breakthroughs. So when we were talking, I allowed that. I was like, wait a minute, this is something that is like triggering something inside of me. So obviously this is the thing that is going to lead to the breakthrough. Because only if you're being triggered, you really know someone's getting inside there deeply. That's how I feel it.
Yeah, well, some people take that personal. So you clearly had maybe this past experience to know this isn't a personal thing. Meaning what I was trying to destruct or see that needed to be destructive, what I was attacking, if you want to call it that, wasn't you. It was the system.
I know that.
Yeah.
I know that. And even like in the moment during that call that I didn't know that, I knew that I was reacting in a way that I needed to find the other side of. And why am I reacting this way? Mm-hmm. What inside of me
doesn't want to see this? Yeah. Yeah, but you know what? I know for me, when I recovered, I knew there were things I was hiding that were so uncomfortable I didn't think I could handle, that when I became aware, if I don't face those things, I'm not going to get better. That's when I finally faced them, and it hurts. It's like, it's actually dissolving the cognitive dissonance. These are things that are essentially conflicting with my ideals and my ideology. And if I face them, I'm going to have a complete breakdown of my identity. That was my religious identity. Like, if I face these facts, they will break down this sacred concept of who I'm supposed to be that I thought was safe. And I refuse to look at that because I think it's still safe, even though it is ultimately the source of all the shame that I'm having to cope with. Right? And the way I'm coping, I'm willing to die. I'm willing to commit suicide, so I end the coping. So it's like either I kill myself to remove the coping, or I destruct this sacred concept that I think is safe. And that is like facing the cognitive dissonance without argument. Yeah, that is not easy to do. It really does. Don't you agree? You have to suffer enough to have the humility to just sit in that and not defend yourself or be ashamed or feel that you are a worthless piece of shit, right?
Yeah, no, it's got to get in there and do its work. Like the language does the work, I think. That's what breaks up the stuck energy.
Yeah.
And the way, and
it's hard to describe.
I like it, even though it's like intense.
Yeah, I know. So it was good. That's why I kind of let you when we started this session, I was like, I'm going to let her describe how shitty she felt and how feeling angry and actually realizing that anger is the dissonance. Yeah. You had to sit through that dissonance and realize that you did the best you could with what you were aware of, and there's nothing to be angry about. And there's really no time been wasted. Not 1 second was wasted.
Yeah, it's true, because I couldn't have just snapped my fingers and not.
This is what it took to get here, and you got here. Congratulations!
Let's make sure it sticks.
Right. Well, that's the thing. It's like if it's going to stick, that means you have to be perpetually, consistently willing to surrender that old way of thinking forever. And eventually it just doesn't even exist anymore because it only existed in that kind of lower state of awareness that was from a child's point of view. You've evolved beyond that. And it took pain to break it open. So anyways, when pain, it's almost like you served some form of karma. That's another way to look at it. You might have needed to serve a certain level of suffering to then be set free from that.
So now I'm like on the path of making sure that doesn't happen in the next life.
Yes, you are now on a new space of learning. And so one of the things you've learned is that while humility is important, grace is important. So maybe this was you transcended or you served, you checked the box of serving karma. Now you know. Maybe in some past life, you shamed and scorned another human being.
Yeah.
So you had to live in your own shame and scorn and then forgive it for you to transcend that.
That's profound. And yeah, I could totally imagine that.
Yeah, I felt that way too. I was like, thank the Lord. Oh my God, I served that karma. Good riddance. How many lifetimes did I live with that?
Yeah, right.
Until I had the humility to admit wrongdoing. And it's not in shame. It's in humility. I would willfully be shamed and scorned and be on my own if it meant me being authentic and true and actually respecting the life that I have been given as good enough.
Yeah.
It's like transcending the haves from the have-nots. I can be have or have not, and it is irrelevant to me. So that to me is like, oh, so you've transcended that, the suffering of the haves and the have-nots by caring to not caring. Now you're free. Oh God, am I even just making it? Am I making any sense?
Yes, no, you're totally making sense. I like to take things in.
Yeah.
And I feel things in my body when they ring true, and I just like to have it get in there.
Yeah, it's like bliss. Yeah, it feels blissful, and it's like Mary Poppins.